All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. How is everybody doing? I am here with the James Wedmore, our business coach. That just give you a quick background about how I know James or work with James and jog James's memory as well. I was introduced to you, James, in May of 2017. Rachel Luna introduced me to you. Actually, you know what? Actually, that's not true. Amy Porterfield. Did you used to do a thing on her video, like in her course, where you sold like a $7 video, something like that? That was the first time.
That was a while ago, but yeah.
Yeah, that was the first time I ever saw you. And then Rachel introduced me to Business by Design. And I will tell you that besides all of the processes, the number one thing that has helped me and to be able to implement it into our business, I have a business coach, Sharon Chapman, is the you piece. And I mean, listening to your podcast, listening to your new module about you and how much it has to do with you.
Yeah.
That's it. So, and then I got to work with you during the Tribe
right.
launch. Yeah, because we started our membership. That is a monthly membership now that is absolutely amazing. And we have amazing students that are starting to hop on here as well. So yeah, that's how I know you. I am a student for life because I finally found what's going to help me grow authentically.
Yeah.
And so we talked a little bit before this. We'll kind of wait for everybody to come on. Hi, Emily. So, James.
Yes.
Could you tell our audience or my audience here, how do you even get started with online business?
Yeah. Well, notice that even in that question, we're already presupposing that this is like such a big thing. It's like we're standing at the base of Mount Everest and we're looking up and we're already like, holy cow, how the heck am I supposed to do this? And so I'll answer that question, and I'll answer it very, very simply, but I want to go somewhere else first. And it's something that you pointed out, which I absolutely love, is you said, you were going and you were learning and you're, wanting to consume all these things so you could figure out what to do and all the things, whether it was to get started or to keep going or to grow. And you started to notice that like there's that missing ingredient of you. And that was something that I noticed a long time ago with myself. And what I'm about to say is going to sound really braggadocious for a lot of people. But when I first got started, I considered myself to be really smart. Like I was an A student in school without studying. I was a fast learner. Like I just thought I was really smart, not in a bad way, not in like a full of ego or something, but just like that wasn't something I was beating myself up with. Yet, however, in starting my business and going and building a business online, I struggled for 5 years straight. And I realized that no amount of smarts or intellect which is what I was using, was going to get me what I wanted. And that's when I had to really take a hard look at myself and how I was still getting in my own way. And I really think that that's what most of us are doing. And this is this idea of resistance. We have resistance when you have a desire. Maybe it's to start a business. Maybe it's to help more people, reach more people, whatever it is. But we put a but after that. And anytime there's a but, like, but I don't have the time, but I have the money, but who am I to be doing this? But I haven't been doing it that long, but what people already know this, or they wouldn't possibly want to hear. But all of that is us talking out of our dreams. It's talking us out of what we want before we get started. Mm-hmm. And it is simply stories and thoughts and made up nonsense and fairy tales in our mind that don't really feel like fairy tales. They feel like the truth. And so that to me is where to start, is always get as clear as we can on what we want. Always is keep playing with it. And I'm reading rereading a book that I loved, and recently in this message came out that I'm just like, oh, I love this so much. And it's once you get clear on what you want to begin practicing the idea of harmonizing with that idea, with that dream and that vision, harmonizing with it. So here's what people do, and this might be what some of you guys watching are doing, is someone like Alison comes on and says, you could start a business online, you could reach more people, you could leverage, you could finally like break free from time for dollars. And there's the part of you that goes, yes, that sounds amazing. And then you start to go, and how would I do that? And the moment you ask that question, it's immediately followed with, I don't know how, therefore I can't. And we, again, talk ourselves out of it. And so what I like to tell my students, right, and I'll still give, I'm very good at giving very tactical, step-by-step, concrete, bite-sized stuff. But that to me, the mechanics is the 10 to 20%, and the psychology and really the energy, the who you're being, the thinking and the feeling combined is the 80%. It's the magic, right? And so if what I like to say is F the how for now. And the reason why we want to F the how for now is because you want to spend a little bit of this time harmonizing with it. In other words, what would it actually look like to have this business and have it provide for me what I want it to provide? And what would that feel like? And why is that important to me? And what would get me really excited about that? What would change? What would be different about me and my thinking and my feeling? And I've been doing that for a long time. That's what changed for me. I struggled for 5 years, and then I realized that if I wasn't aligned and getting rid of that resistance, that I was going to keep struggling until I finally would have to give up. And I'm glad I kept going. But still today, that's something I consciously spend time, and I think subconsciously I'm doing it because it's become a level of mastery every single day. And so to me, that's actually, it's the step before we start, is to start there, is to spend time, just this idea of harmonizing with it, of playing with it, of being with it, of imagining it without resistance, without the stories, and to notice that when they come up, okay? Because getting started after that becomes very easy. It really does, because you'll start to notice, like, I'm led a lot by intuition and what feels good and what feels right. And we can talk more about that. But this type of business, guys, is really simple. The problem is people want to tell you it's complicated, and you might want to think it's complicated, and you might want to make it complicated, but it's very simple. This business is about attracting your audience, and it's about selling them what they want. Anything beyond those two is completely irrelevant, and it's not worth your time. Yet the problem I see with so many struggling entrepreneurs who start an online business and want to reach more people is they're spending 95% of their time and their energy on other activities. They're trying to get the perfect website, right? Like, I got to have my website perfect. You guys are listening here, and some of you have already started to listen to some content that Alison's been sharing. How many of you have spent time on my website? How many of you are going through my About Me page, right? Maybe one or two of you, but the majority of you haven't. Alison, have you even been to, like, in all seriousness, have you been to jameswedmore.com? Is that where you go?
No, I mean, I've been there once just because one of my favorite things to do is watch what you're doing, mm-hmm. and then learn from that. So that's right. The only reason
Right. And if we had all the same interactions that we'd had, and you found that my website was just like a picture of me and said, thanks, would you not purchase from me? Would you have not, oh, I don't want to work with James and, blah, blah, blah.
Because he doesn't have a cool website.
Because he doesn't have a fancy $10,000 website.
Yeah, no, not at all.
And, and these are the problems that I have because I truly care about people getting results because I spent 5 years not making a dime. and or like 4 years and some change, right? And I was very fortunate enough to be young and still and like could just go live home with my parents. I swallowed my pride with my tail between my legs. I went back home and I lived with them. I'm going to assume that most people here just don't have that luxury. You have kids, you have mortgages and bills and responsibilities, and you just can't afford to be spending a year, 2, 3 plus working for free, hoping that this is going to work out or pan out. And so I really look for the quickest route, and definitely starting with that harmonizing is the first step. But then we need to identify what are the what I call the 5% activities that will get you 95% of the results, and how do we let go or delay or delete or delegate the other activities that will just get in the way and they'll be a distraction. Like, oh, not only do I got to get my About Me page perfect, I got to get that professional photo shoot, I got to get business cards, I got to set up my, business plan and all these things that give us the illusion that we're staying busy, but doesn't really make a difference. But if we look at it down into 2 things, if we all have, however many hours we allocate a day to this business. And if you gave the majority of your time to one or the other, attract my audience and sell them what they want, you would get where you want to go much further. And I think, Alison, you said you shared the story of Jacqueline Kinser, who's a new student of mine, who struggled for like a year and a half, and didn't make a dime, didn't do anything. And then she got what we call aligned. And I would love to dive into that, because that's a beautiful topic for me. Alignment is a feeling. You guys can't think your way there. And school taught us you got to use your brain, you got to think, you're not thinking. But what about feeling? Like, we got to feel our way there too. And alignment is it's like when everything just lines up. Like, that's how a lock works on a door, right? The key has all these little teeth, and it's aligning all these things. And as soon as you turn it, it aligns all the things, and things open up. And so you are that key, and we need to make sure that's aligned. So with Jacqueline's story, it was really great. She struggled for a long time, and then she took a step back, and she realized that she was out of alignment. She was a lot of fears about the idea and the offer that she had. It was like, I don't know if this is what people want. I don't really see how this is going to work. This isn't really, it feels heavy. It feels challenging. It feels confusing. It feels unclear. And then all of a sudden she had an epiphany. See, when you're so busy working and pushing, and you got your head down and you're efforting and you're overthinking, you can't let that clarity come. And she did. And in a day, she had an idea for a program. She said, I'm going to charge $497, and I'm going to have 15 people do it. And she had no list. She had no audience, nothing, and no product, no website, nada. And in 7 days, she filled those 15 spots, and she is starting a brand new business with $7,500 in the black, in the positive. And she's starting it with people that she can serve, that will become case studies and testimonials, that will endorse her moving forward. And now she's starting her business the right way. But the biggest mistake I see people make is they have an idea for maybe a membership or an online course or an ebook or video content, and they go, I'll spend 6 months working for free to try and create this before I ever put it out there in the world. And it's just backwards. So here's where you start from there. Once you really start getting clear on your idea and harmonizing, we want to start with starting to attract an audience. And we can talk about this as much as you want. But my little sister has been struggling to start her business. And the funny thing is you're never the guru in your hometown. You ever heard that before, Alison? You're never the guru in your hometown. I mean, I've been a jerky brother to my little sister. I've picked on her my whole life, and that's just kind of our thing. I mean, I love her to death, but I pick on her all the time. Now, she's a yoga instructor. And so she kind of has always disregarded me in that context. And I think she's finally starting to come around and be like, oh, I want to do this too. And so for the last couple of years, she's had a great idea for a yoga membership, but I've watched her, and everyone has their own time and pace. And I've watched her stall and not move forward and not grow. And it's never because she was doing the wrong thing. It was actually because she never got started. And the reason she didn't get started was because of all the stuff that goes on up here. She was so afraid, and this is stuff she's admitted and shared, that she's afraid of what people would think of her. She's afraid of what if they don't like it, what if they criticize her. And then recently she told me, she goes, I want to do a membership, but I'm afraid to launch it. And I said, what specifically are you afraid of? And she says, I'm afraid that no one will join. I said, kind of like right now, where you have no members. And I said, so you already know what it feels like to not have anyone join. So aren't you afraid of something that you already have? And it just kind of clicked for her. It's like, oh yeah. I'm like, so what are you afraid of again? Right? But we get so in our head about these things. And she reached out to me. This is why I'm telling the story. She reached out to me this week. And she goes, it's really loud. She's got a 2-year-old, my nephew. And it's like, it's really loud at the house. And I need a few hours. Can I come to your office right here where I am now and record some of the videos? And she comes in. And I'm just like asking her a few questions. And sure enough, she's doing exactly what most people end up doing. She's trying to record a year's worth of membership content. And she's been spending months trying to do this. She has no audience, no following, nothing, but a bunch of videos collecting dust on her computer. And I told her the same thing I'm telling you guys. I said, have you been growing your business since the last time we checked in? She goes, yes, I'm working on it. And I said, you're gonna hate what I have to say, but you haven't grown your business 1 inch. No, I have. I've been doing all these videos. I'm making progress. I was like, you have had no progress. And you want to know how I know that? And she said, how? I said, because business is about attracting an audience and selling them what they want. And you can measure that your progress by the amount of leads or audience that you have and the amount of sales or customers that you have. How many leads do you have and how many sales do you have? And it was like really sobering for her. She's like 0. And I said, so here's the deal. You can use my office. You can spend more of your valuable time, because she's a new mom. So she only has a few hours in a day to devote to this. And I said, you can waste this time making more videos that no one's going to watch, or you can get busy now on the right things, which is, what are the right things? I said, you got to build your audience. So I basically locked her in my office and I said, you're going to create a Facebook group, and it's called Yoga for Mommies. And she's got like nothing. She's starting from scratch. I got a text message from her. This was yesterday, by the way, guys. This was yesterday at 4:00. I got a text message from her this morning. She goes, holy cow, I've got my first 10 members, my first 10 people in my Facebook group. And like, she's like, I'm finally seeing the light. I'm finally seeing that I'm focusing on the right things. And so business is really simple. We are in the business of solving problems, getting paid to solve problems. And all we need to do is attract an audience and sell them what they want. And I've been doing that now for several years and teaching people how to do that. And people are building their audiences on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube, through a podcast. And then when they listen to them, we give them what they want. And it really can be as simple as that. Now, again, you can make it more complicated. I think making it complicated is the easy way. I think that's what most people do, but it's not going to get you what you want. So hopefully that's a long drawn out answer, and I've been talking a long time, so I'll check in with Alison, but hopefully that starts to answer that for people here listening. For sure, yes.
So yeah, Emily says that's an incredibly helpful story. So James, what is the 5%? You say that we say that we should know. I know what it is.
Yeah.
I think that I heard you say that a while back, and and you said, and you know what that is. And I was like, no, I don't. But I do.
Yeah.
But it's like that hiding again. Like,
yes, hiding. Yeah.
So what is that 5%?
Yeah. So to recap that, and this is worth writing down, it's 5%. It's this idea that, and it's really been proven over and over again. It's basically the Pareto principle on steroids. This idea that there are 5% of activities that are directly responsible for business growth. When we actually talk about, I want to start a business, I want to own a business, like these are all great things, but a business that's actually successful, that's actually working, it needs two things to experience growth. We have to, and you have to measure these things because you cannot grow what you can't measure. Really critical. Okay. So if I said your business is about two things, attracting an audience and selling what they want, all the other stuff is really the 95% of, it might be important, it might be essential, but it's not what's going to grow the business. And so what I do tell people, like I've told Alison, is that we all know, if you've been in business for like more than a few weeks, then you know intuitively what those 5% activities are. And I'll reveal a few of them to you, but I want to offer that you already know if you're in business. The problem is, or the challenge rather, is that these activities are outside your comfort zone. There's that quote, I forgot who said it, but life begins outside your comfort zone. They're outside your comfort zone because they are exposing. They expose you to the things that we fear, like judgment, rejection, criticism. And so, there's that ego part of ourselves. And I like to say that the ego masks itself as logic, right? So there's that ego part of us that wants to keep you safe. And it doesn't want you to face rejection. It doesn't want you to get a no. It doesn't want someone to say, you don't know what you're talking about. You're not qualified to do this, blah, blah, blah. And so what it will do is that a part of your brain will make a very fantastic argument for why you're not ready to sell your program or put your stuff out there or own your expertise. You know what? I need another certification. I got to get that website done. I got to get the professional photographs. I got to do this and I got to do that. And we will talk ourselves out of our dreams for years. Yet the facts are that you cannot deny is that there are people out there that are asking for your help right now. There are people that need you. There are people that, can't afford your one-on-ones, that can't afford and don't want to go into the studio and do the one-on-ones, blah, blah, blah. And they need your help. And we're so consumed and concerned with what if I don't look good? What if I look stupid? What if they don't like me? We're all concerned about how the world perceives us. And the more concerned you are with that, the more you become oblivious to the people out there that actually need your help. And I like to equate this. So that's the 5% is it's going out and you're helping people. It's selling doesn't need to be scary, sleazy, or greedy. Selling is a transformational experience because you're asking someone for a commitment. Now, for anyone here who's been doing what you do for a long time, have you had students, and Alison, maybe you can attest to this as well, have you had students that have had extraordinary results and then some that just like faded off into the distance and never experienced any results? You have, right? Sure. And you're like, maybe part of you is like, I'm so confused because I'm teaching the same thing to person A as I am to person B, right? So it's obviously not your teaching. It's obviously not your method, but there's something else there. It's something that they bring to the table or something that they're not bringing to the table. And a big piece of that is their commitment. If someone's not committed and they're not taking it seriously and they're not being coachable, they're not going to get the results, right? And we can all agree to that. Yes, even Alison, you can agree to that, right? Someone cannot get the results that you want for them if they don't care, they're not willing to do the work, i.e. they're not committed. Well, guess what? People do not create commitment. They do not pay attention when they don't pay. When they do not put skin in the game, they will not show up.
Yeah.
How many times has someone given you guys free content? You're like, oh, that's great, I'll get to it later, and you never did.
All the time.
Right? So what we have is our duty and our responsibility, coming from a place of our commitment to serve and help, is to understand that when we put a price tag on our stuff, just like when we do, one-on-ones and in-person stuff, is that the transaction that we're having creates the commitment. It becomes the catalyst for the entire transformation. So you're not actually helping anyone if you're just giving it all away for free, because they don't value it. And if they don't value it, they won't use it. And if they don't use it, they're not going to get results. And then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy because they say, see, it was of no value, because they didn't get anything out of it. So let's see. So this is selling. This is putting a price tag on it. This is inviting people to join, to be a part of this, to fork over their money. And yet these are the things that are uncomfortable for so many of us. And it's not that selling is something scary. You might be saying, I don't want to sell. I don't like selling. I'm not a salesperson. I'm not a marketer. And what I'm going to offer here, and this is how I really help people, is that you actually are not afraid of selling. You don't have resistance to selling. Rather, you have resistance to your story about selling. And when I can get you to see that selling is not about taking from somebody else, it's not about being greedy, it's not being about money hungry, but it's really about the first step of creating true and lasting transformation for someone. Selling is one of the most powerful things we can do. And even energy healers and shamans and people talk about this all the time, where in order to do work, there needs to be an exchange. There needs to be an exchange of energy, right? And, it's money for your content or for your community or for your training or for your routines or for your recipes. And there needs to be that exchange there. And so for me today, my relationship with selling is that it's transformational and it's fun. And there's no reason why we have a multi-seven-figure year business. Yet, what kind of business do you think you'll have if you think selling is scary? How much money could you have if you think selling sucks or scary or sleazy? How many people do you really think you're going to help if you don't want to sell? Zero, right? Outside our comfort zone, but guess who put it outside your comfort zone? You did. And you can put it back into your comfort zone anytime you want. But this is an example of the 5% activities. Doing a Facebook Live like this, where maybe there's someone new to Alison here today. Maybe this is like your first time. Guess what? That's her. If you're brand new and you haven't seen Alison until today, that is her building her audience. Build her audience and sell them what they want, what they're asking for. So I'm sure the first time Alison did a Facebook Live, it was scary.
And no one watched for like a year.
And
I like that.
Yeah, right, exactly. Let's get the worst one out of the way when no one's watching, and we'll get better from there. Totally. Yeah, think about someone like me who already had following, and then I had to go do it my first one. I was nervous because it's like, there's like more at stake for me, right? So she's building her audience, but where do you think Alison would be if she let her fear win? If she said, oh, no, today's not the right day yet. I shouldn't do that Facebook Live. Oh, no, I don't know how to use Be Live. I don't know how to do all this stuff yet. Let me just delay it. And we're doing this all day long. We just don't recognize it because 90% of our thinking, our thoughts, are all subconscious. And they're pretty much a carbon copy of the thinking we had the day before, which is why we say we want to change, we want to do something new, but we find ourselves doing the same thing every single day. And, that's a whole nother topic we can get into.
that goes into, I would love for you to share your transformational story. I'm taking Jim Fortin's 90-day
Awesome.
right now.
Yeah.
For the first time. And I mean, oh my gosh, it's so eye-opening, but we don't even know what we're telling ourselves.
Yeah, totally.
And then just real quick, we have a question, Caitlin. Hi, Caitlin. She says, it's like you're in my head. So how do you decide what you or your offer is worth?
Great question. Okay, so the reason it's a great question is because it allows me to give you an answer that will first say you're asking it completely backwards. How do you decide what your offer is worth? I'm going to say this, and I'll say it fast, and it may not make sense to a couple of you guys. I think it'll make sense to Alison, but we'll see how this goes. What most people don't get about this whole idea of entrepreneurship is that there really are no rules. Now, I'm not saying like break the law, but I'm saying everyone wants to be an entrepreneur because they think it's going to give them more freedom, all these things. Except when they go into the world of entrepreneurship, you realize they don't want freedom. If they wanted freedom, they wouldn't be afraid to make a mistake at every turn. They wouldn't be asking, what's the right way to do this? What should I do? If you really sit there and think about that, because Alison just said we don't realize how much we just get in our head all day long. But is that freedom? Is that really freedom if every day as you're building your business, you second guess everything that you want to do and then look to someone else to tell you what's the right way? And the answer is there is no right way. There's your way, and your way makes it the right way. So to bring that question back, how do you determine what your offer is worth? It's a little backwards. Instead, it's what is the offer and the price that I want to charge, and how am I going to show my audience that it's worth that? That's why it's backwards. It's a great question, so don't get me wrong. It's a great question, but that's a huge difference. Otherwise, we're looking to everyone else and the world to validate everything, right? Because I don't want to get it wrong. I don't want to get it right. We're in the works right now of crafting an offer that we're putting $100,000 price tag on it. $100,000 offer. And I'm really excited about this. So right now I run a mastermind. A mastermind is a 12-month group program limited to 26 individuals. And I charge $35,000 for that. And now we're going to put an offer together that's $100,000. And so I didn't start with what do you think people would pay or blah, blah, blah. I said, I want to create this offer and I want it to be 100,000. And that's going to attract a certain individual. So that's another thing to look at is who do I want to attract with it? Look, this might sound really rude when I'm saying a little judgy, but just like bear with me. Look at Walmart. What is Walmart always known for? The low price leader. There is a website that we used to look at in college called People of Walmart or something like that. And the whole website was pictures of people that shop at Walmart. There's some very interesting characters that shop there. Your prices determine who you attract. So I'm always going, who do I want to attract? And it's not like someone is better will pay a higher price. No, it's the level of commitment. It goes back to the sales conversation that we had. If someone pays only a little, they're going to pay only a little attention. If they pay a lot, they're going to pay more attention. They're more serious and they're more committed. So this is the way we look at it. For us, it was, okay, I have this vision, and I haven't shared this publicly with anyone yet, but it just kind of like inspired me to share it, is I have this vision for this offer where I'm going to work one-on-one with the person as a mentorship over a long period of time. And Obviously that will take a bit of my time. And so I want to, like, what would that be worth to me? Like, that's the thing is like, what's it worth to them? We also got to be like, well, what would be worth it to me? And I say, this will be $100,000 offer. And if you think I'm doing it out of greed, right? Like James needs more money or something. No, absolutely not. Especially because today, what fuels my business, what my business is a function of is impact. But what fuels the business is the income. We have a large team today. I mean, define large. I have 14 people, including my wife and I. We couldn't do what we do at the level we do without income. My team isn't going to work for free, nor would I want them to. I would feel really guilty, right? And so, you know, it doesn't have anything to do with like, oh, he's being greedy or anything, but notice where we go. Notice how that becomes an interpretation. However, what the goal, now stay with me here, what the goal with putting out a 100K offer would be is to take someone to 7 figures a year by the end of the year. And then if that were the promise, if that were the outcome, we really have to sit there and ask ourselves, wouldn't it be worth it to pay $100,000 if at the end you got back $900,000 in profit? But not only that, but you had what comes after that, the 7 figures the next year and the growth that's compounded on top of that and on top of that. All of a sudden, we start going, wow, 100,000 is a no-brainer.
Right.
To build someone's 7-figure business. Now, you might be saying, but James, I'm not helping someone build their business. Okay, great. But we still use the same principles. So you want to look at why someone would come to work with you in person, right? What kind of results they want and the price there of what it costs to work with you one-on-one. And what I love about going online is that it becomes a game for you to work on volume. See, when you're trading time for dollars, there's only so many clients you can work with in a day, right? Like, could you even have more than 7 or 8 clients in a day? That's a pretty long, busy day. But you could have 7 or 8 clients working with you online at the same time, going through your membership or your course, and they're paying a fraction. So instead of someone who pays you, I don't know, like I'm just going to make it up, like $100 a session, and then they need 4 sessions a month, which is $400, they could be paying $20 a month. They're getting tons of value, but not only that, they're paying like a tenth or a whatever of the cost, which when they pay less, so much more value to them. So there's a lot of critical factors, and I threw a lot at you, but that's how we want to start thinking of this. And so, when we're doing something lower priced, we want to look at volume. So it's not just like, okay, I'm going to have 10 members paying $20. It's like, if I had a membership, you know, like let's say like a Pilates membership, how many people or how much revenue would I want to be making a month? What would get me really excited? You might say 10,000 a month. Great. Okay. And if that was $20 a month, how many members would that be? And you work at it from there. But Stephen Covey said, begin with the end in mind. And that's what we're always, always doing. So big drawn out answer, but I hope that offered some clarity for you.
Yeah. So Caitlin, the one who asked the question, this is a interesting situation because she's actually Silicon Valley, like, you know, used to work 80 hours a week. She makes 6 figures right now, yet she wants to start a Pilates business because that's what she's passionate about.
Yeah.
And her thing is probably similar to you. I mean, straight A's, you know, 4.2 grade point average. And she says that it scares her to death to start something without a plan.
Yeah, I get that. I've done a lot of talking, so I need to take a break.
Yeah, no, sorry.
Well, so yeah, look, I get it. So you know what you need. You need a plan. And that's it. You need a plan. The next question is once you get the plan, are you going to let something else scare you to death? Or are you just going to move forward on that plan? right? I agree. We all need a plan. And obviously, like, that's what I teach, and that's what I can offer, and that's what I can help with, and we can go deeper into that today. I don't want anyone to do anything without a plan. In fact, I think one of the biggest mistakes people are making is they're leaping without having a plan. Like, I'm a big fan of, like, I've got a quote behind me. It says, "Leap and the net will appear." But you know, like, we should know a little bit about where we're going, right? We should have some framework for that structure. And I want to mitigate that risk as much as possible. We have an episode going live next Wednesday. So we're sharing all these incredible case studies, which I'm just like, I'm so proud of my students. Like, seriously, and Alison, you're one of them, which I don't know why we haven't had you on the podcast yet, but so proud. And this is an example of a gentleman by the name of Misha Sidoff. And I forget what his industry was, but he was like in sales, corporate sales, and $200,000 a year salary. Yeah, $200,000. I remember the numbers right. $200,000 a year salary. And he joined my program, and he said, my goal, he put a post, he goes, my goal was in 6 months to replace my corporate salary and then quit my job. Here's the crazy thing. He did it in free. He did it in 90 days. Not only did he replace his corporate salary, but if he stays at the pace that he's at, he will have already doubled his salary. And he did this without a product. Like, he didn't spend 6 months creating a product. He did it without a big email list. He did it with no email. He started from scratch. And it's an unbelievable episode. And he goes into it, the whole details. So it's really exciting. I really want you guys to listen to it. But the point is that he didn't just go and I'm going to quit my job and figure this out, right? That's going to scare anybody. And you know what? Like, that's a very healthy fear to have. Like, you shouldn't do that. What he did is he created a new game for himself where he said, I'm going to figure out how to do this on the side and get it to a certain level. I'm going to figure out how to, you know, instead of making that leap, this giant cavern, you know, a canyon ravine, I'm going to just like make it as small as I can and mitigate it and create a new game. I'm a member of my Inner Circle Mastermind, Jason Brown, who this was a couple years ago, but he had a 6-figure corporate job, and he finally just quit that job this year after his business was making over $500,000 to $600,000 a year. And I was like, you have a $500,000 a year business, and you still have a full-time job? And what he said to me, like, changed my thinking. He goes, James, I told myself when I got started that if I couldn't make this business work in my spare time, then I wouldn't want it to be the thing that I have to spend my full time on. And I was like, oh my goodness, right? Like, he's like, I wanted my business to be something that only needed a few hours a day in order to make money, in order to help people. So why would I, if I left my job, you know, I would have spent all my time on this business, and it would have defeated the purpose. And he finally did quit the job. And the biggest thing he's struggling with right now is he's like, I don't know what to do all day. Good news is he just had a baby, so that'll probably keep him a little busy. But of course, then his revenue has grown even more. So I think he's on track to like double his revenue this year by quitting his job, right? But notice that he didn't need to make things scarier than they need to be. And that would be like the first step of advice I do is like find a way to soften this and like get started now. You know, I'm watching my sister, and she's got this rambunctious 2-year-old, and she's getting stuff done. You know, she's finding little time in the day to do little steps. So do that, start there.
So the first thing basically that my students need to do, or audience needs to do, is grow an audience.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? That would be where they start. That would be the action step number one.
Yeah, and it's not that big of a thing that you think. Like, my sister got 10 people in a Facebook group since yesterday at 4 o'clock, and it's not even 11.
That's amazing. Yeah.
The weekend. Jacqueline's story, for those of you guys who haven't listened to it, she didn't even have any audience. She went into other groups and connected with people individually.
Good. Oh, great.
She said, oh, hey, Susan, I noticed that you're struggling with this. Look, I'm doing some free training. You want to come check it out? They checked out the free training, and then she made an invitation to her first 15 spots. And she sold all 15 spots. By the way, what's really inspiring about the story too, which I mean, it's pretty tragic, but her grandfather passed away during this promotion, during this 1 week period. And I only share that because she had to get on a plane and she had to go visit him. He's on the other side of the country. And it was very emotional, time for her. And she still did it in 7 days. So a lot of people the reason I share is a lot of people they have all these reasons. I just don't have the time right now. I'm too busy. I don't have the money. I don't have the following, and I don't know how. And these are all stories that keep us stuck. These are our circumstances. And what you have to understand is the circumstances you have today are the result of the actions you took yesterday. And so if we make new decisions and new actions today based on those circumstances of today, you get to keep your circumstances. And when you keep your circumstances, nothing changes. If anything, it gets worse and worse. This is why you see people in a downward cycle. This is why you see people spinning their wheels. We need to be bigger than our circumstances. We need to take an action out of faith and from a place of courage and a place of commitment and conviction, knowing that this is what I'm committed to making happen. There's a philosophy I live by. And again, these are concepts, and some of these are you guys have heard before. You've seen them on Instagram. You double tap them. But there's a difference between hearing what I'm saying and putting it in your brain as something you write down or memorize and actually living your life this way. So a lot of people say, yeah, I've heard that before, James. Oh, yes, I understand that. But they don't actually apply it in their own lives. And so I like to come from this place and this idea that your success is inevitable. But most people are living their lives conditionally. I say your success is inevitable, and you'll say, I'll believe it when I see it. It's backwards. Yeah, that sounds great, James. I'll see my success is inevitable once I have it. It's backwards. And so the difference when you flip it is you realize that when you know your success is inevitable, that it's the actions you take out of faith today. Those are the actions taken from faith, taken from conviction. Those are the actions that make you successful. But when you're operating from fear, what you put out is what you get back. More evidence of something to be afraid of. So you operate, but what if it doesn't work? I'm afraid it won't. I'm afraid it's going to You're never going to get what you want that way. And that's how most people are running their lives. And that's how most people are running their business. And then they wonder why they're not getting what they want. And so there's a quote I love, and it's a golf analogy. So maybe we've got some golfers. But the quote is, live your life like the ball is already in the cup. Or I'm going to translate it like, start this business, run this business, grow this business like the ball is already in the cup. In other words, here's what people do. If anyone's played golf, you already know that it's such a mental game. So is entrepreneurship. You get to the third hole, and the second hole, you just really screwed it up, right? Triple bogey, and you got your buddies with you, your friends, and I don't know if we have any female golfers here. I don't play golf that much, but I used to when I was younger. But my wife and I have played a little bit, and they're all watching you, and you show up to the tee on the third hole, and what are you thinking about? You're thinking about all the shots you missed on the last tee at the last hole, right? You're thinking about, crap, am I going to do this again? And then you're like, oh crap, they're really looking, and boy, I was really talking up a big game in front of my friends earlier, and I better hit this, right? And so then we swing, and we swing out of fear, and we miss the shot. Now, How would you feel and how would you show up differently if you knew 100% that when you hit it, it was going to go right in the cup? You wouldn't think or feel at all. You'd be you and the ball and you just hit it, right? And so that's what most people are doing. They've had a few letdowns, they've had a few struggles, a few breakdowns or failures, and then they approach their business today with all that stuff that they bring with them, and they swing and a miss. But when you begin to live your life and run your business like the ball's in the cup, you begin to act from a place of faith and not fear. Is that making sense? I know this is like very conceptual, but
I love it. And I just wanted to remind everybody, I don't know if
yeah, there it is.
Yeah. This is so eye-opening. And if you guys don't have this, I'll put it in the comments so you can pick it up. It's so eye-opening to why we are missing it.
Yeah.
Why we're making things so much harder. We have a lot of dancers or past dancers, retired dancers that are Pilates instructors. And one of the things we were talking about the other day was how, as a dancer, your whole life, I mean, if you were in dance from the time you were a child, you are judged for the way that you look or performing.
Yeah.
Not only do you have school, which is F's to A's, and wherever you are, that's how you're defined. You have, so there was something called Royal Academy of Dance. They judged you on, it was pass plus, commended, highly commended, or honors.
Yep.
And so just for me personally, I was always average. I always got like B's. I always got like commended, maybe highly commended. But it's then we are raised to believe that that's all we can ever.
Right. I mean, listen how Alison even said it. I was average. No, you weren't. You are not average, and you never were average. You may have received a labeled score that's average, but that doesn't make you average. But I get that an entire lifetime of getting average grades, we start to say, I was average.
And so then everything you do is average. Or that's how you.
Right. Because and I always mess this up, but it's in the book, so I'll bring it up right now. Your brain, all your thinking and your thoughts, your brain doesn't align your beliefs to fit your life. It aligns your life to fit your beliefs. So what are you going to have evidence of in your life if your belief is already that I'm average, or that here's another one, what people think of me matters, right? That's probably a belief that most people here, if you're sharing that they were dancers, has, that what people think of me matters. Nonsense. Someone here has a belief or opinion of me that is like, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. He's whatever, blah, 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 whatever you want to say. Your opinion of me doesn't matter to me. It won't stop me from me doing what I want to do. It's not going to stop me from being happy. It's not going to stop me from fulfilling my dreams in my life. Can you imagine where I would be? Today we're on track to be an 8-figure business. We have a team of 14 amazing people, thousands of people that we help. But I'm going to let your opinion of me prevent all that? No, because no one else's opinion, belief, judgment, or criticism of you matters at all. It does, and it's because it doesn't say anything about you, but it says a hell of a lot about them. So I really get that if we're in this environment from a young age, that we now superimpose that into the rest of our lives. Like everything on social media is like a judging competition kind of thing, and it's not.
Right.
And if you guys can just skip all the nonsense that other people will go through, which is like the up and down roller coaster of a year of struggle, and it's working, I hate this, I love it, oh no my gosh, this is the worst, right? And just get to the place where you go, what I have is going to help people, not everybody. I'm not here to help everybody, but it's going to help the right people. And it's my job to help find those right people and help them. And nothing else matters. Nothing else matters. And in fact, I could help everyone here. And guess what? You don't even have to like me in order for me to help you. I don't really care if you like me or not, because I'm not doing this to get friends. I have friends, right?
Yes.
And that's another thing too, is it's very contextual. Like when I'm in business, like how I'm showing up here is not, if Alison and I became like friends where we just hang out and go to dinner and stuff like that, like, you know, our spouses and stuff, like we all just, let's go out to dinner. I'd probably be very, very, I know I would not probably, I would be very different in how I show up and interact there, right? Like this is just like how you show up with your kids is different than when you go hang out with your old sorority sisters or something, right? Like it's all contextual, but we're not getting that. Like we're starting this online business as a personal brand, and like so many people are doing it concerned to be liked, and I hope I'm popular, and I hope they all like me and what they all think of me. And it's like, wait a second, that's what like your friends and family are for.
Oh.
You need the whole world to like you, or just the people that matter to you, right? And so when I go online, like I ruffle feathers. I don't do it to like offend or upset, but I do it because a lot of people are like stuck in their ish, not paying attention to their lives, and I upset people. It upsets them. Mm-hmm. But I'm not about to back down from what I believe is true and what's made the difference for me, because I just want people to like me. Now, I used to suffer from that. I really did. That's why I share. Anything I share or talk about is something I personally went through. And, you know, wasting your time worrying about what the world thinks of you isn't going to grow your business. It would be far more effective to just get busy worrying about how you can help the people that need your help. That's where you spend your time. And you can just not give a rat's ass about anybody else, quite frankly. So I really get that. And there's a lot of compassion there, you know, but now, you know, this isn't about being, they'll all judge you, you know, everyone's going to judge you. It just doesn't mean anything.
Right.
So
how did you start to get over that, caring about what people think of you?
Well, two things. Number one, I had to get really present on what it was costing me.
Oh, good. Good one.
Like really clear on what it was costing me. And so the thing is if you're new in business, you don't really know what it's costing you yet. Like I said, we can skip that whole roller coaster nonsense if you'd like, you know, but that's what the cost is. If your priority and your concern is that, you know, you're going to be holding back and you're going to be playing small in your business and you're not going to grow. And here's why. This business requires marketing. It requires a skill in marketing. And the biggest mistake you can make in marketing is to be boring. It's the biggest sin. And being boring is to say vanilla. Everyone likes vanilla. There's no one who doesn't like vanilla. They just don't get excited about vanilla. They don't talk about, oh, she ordered vanilla, right? It's just like, well, yeah, it's vanilla. It's like water, right? And so there's so many messages and so many people talking. There's so much noise that if your message and what you have to share is vanilla, it's, oh, I don't want to upset anybody. I want to make sure we look good. You're going to just blend into the noise and not stand out, and therefore not get attention, not get your audience, and not grow, because you're more concerned with getting everybody to like you than actually helping people. And it's the people that are willing to make a stand that stand out. And in order to stand out, you must have the courage to do so, which you all do have the courage to do so. But it's about standing up for what you believe in. It's about standing up for how you think it should be. And you wouldn't take a stand for something unless there were people against it. So you have to be okay that there's going to be people say, I disagree. You know, one of the things I talk about is I say, there's all these people, if you've been online watching motivational videos for any time, you know what I'm talking about. There's all these people, you know, yelling in your face in these videos saying, you're not working hard enough. And that the reason you're not successful is because you're not hustling your face off. And you've got to work until your eyeballs bleed, right? That is the biggest friggin' nonsense on the planet. And I take a stand against that. Now, there's a lot of people.
This is where you got a lot of the negative or.
Oh, yeah. Oh, gosh. I mean, like, a lot of men, too. So that's why I can, like, say it here, because I'm assuming, like, 99% of everyone listening here, at least live, is female. Yes. And, you know, look, my parents taught me the greatest work ethic in the world. And so, like, I worked myself to the bone. I got addicted to Adderall, which is a legal form of speed, when I was younger. And I would work.
Adderall, by the way.
What's that?
You said in the book it was your sister's Adderall.
Yeah. She was taking it because she had like ADHD. She's since off it. And then that thing is, man, like that's a whole nother story. But kids are taking that and it's just not good. No. Anyways, I would pop 20 to 40 milligrams a day. I'd roll out of bed from 7, 8 in the morning and I'd work until like midnight or 2 every day. And I didn't get anywhere. And because you work on the wrong things, it doesn't matter how hard you hustle. When you're not aligned, it doesn't matter how hard you work. And yet a lot of men, sadly, because it's action and effort and hustle is a very masculine energy thing, which I had a lot of that, they've become defined by it. You know, people would say stuff to me like, you've never worked a hard day in your life. Well, first of all, you don't know that. That's not true. But what does that have to do with anything? Like, why would that matter? And really think about that. It's so ingrained that people think that you're not a man or you're not of value if you haven't worked a hard day in your life. It's just interesting. Like, just think about that. Like, we don't even question those things. No, you have to work hard to be of value. It's like, you already are of value. If you think your value comes from your sweat and your sacrifice, and that's it, you have already limited yourself so much. And so for me, what really changed in my life is I did adopt much more of the feminine energy, which is much more about attraction and receiving. And realize that when you are aligned and you're in harmony with stuff, you don't need to work nearly as hard. I mean, if you guys want to call hanging out with Alison and you guys for an hour on a Sunday morning after having my morning coffee with you guys working hard, then so be it. To me, this is just us talking. Like, that's not hard, like, at all. It really isn't. You know, but we're not, those aren't the things that most people are doing. Again, they're off like, let me struggle on building my website and all those things. So, so I get a lot of pushback from that. But here's what to get from that. It's this idea of polarity. Polarity means that with one side of people, oh my gosh, no, you've never worked hard. You're an idiot. What are you talking about? All this conviction for one side. What beautifully happens is it balances out on the other side. So vanilla is down here. Everyone goes out there and says, yeah, okay, we agree. Nothing new. Big deal. But when you have all these people say, no, I disagree, what it automatically does is gets the other people on the other side of the stick to agree just as passionately as those that don't. And so you don't create a vanilla audience of people that are like, yeah, I agree. You create an evangelist group of people that are a part of your cause and what you want to do. And, if you're committed to helping people, you have to be willing to do that,
One of the things I noticed about you and what I always wonder, and I'm pretty sure I know the answer, of how you have how you continue to have the passion and energy to help. And what I see is because you've put your systems in place, because you have a team, you've created an environment to where you make sure that you do have the energy to continue to give.
Right.
So that,
that's a big piece of it. Yeah. You know, when you, and I know you'll do this with Jim, of course, like when you know your values, that's when you become, and you align with those, that's when you become aligned. And, you know, that's it's high on my value scale that, like, it's just always been, well, here, let's look at it symbols like this. Like, I've heard this before and I love it. It's like, what did you used to do as a kid? Find a way to do that as an adult. And because we should never grow up, right? And, you know, so maybe you got a lot of people that were dancers as a kid. And it's like, how do we continue to get paid for that? How do we continue to build a business around that? And so for me as a kid, I did two things. Well, I technically did three things, which I've done them all, which is great. Is I would play business. Like I would set up a desk in front of my bedroom in the hallway. And when my parents would walk by and try and sell them stuff, no joke. That's at like 4, okay? The next thing I would do is I would make videos. And another part of my story is my first business online was teaching video. So I was making videos as a kid. But the third thing that I've always done is I always love teaching. Anytime I learned something new, I love learning. That's why I love teaching. Anytime I learned something new, I would always run around and try and find somebody to teach it to them. And I found really quickly that I was a good teacher. I was good because I like doing it. And it's funny how those things kind of go hand in hand. So I'm doing what I love. And yes, when I put the structure we've put in place in the business and we've set it up the way it has, it allows me to do more of that. And that's what's going to get really people into trouble is we have this initial passion, this energy that's like this fire that builds up inside of us when we like want to do this thing, like start a business, all this stuff. And the idea of it fuels that. That's why I said harmonize with it. But then we go to work on all these other things and you're like, oh, I didn't know I had to do this. And oh, I hate doing that. And it just like kills the passion, just like takes it out of you. And you don't have to do all that yourself. Even my sister, who's just getting started, has a part-time virtual assistant that she only pays a few dollars an hour and overseas. You know, and it's like, Jill, you shouldn't be doing that tech stuff. That is not your zone of genius. And that is going to kill your passion off. And I would have burnt out a long time ago if I was, you know, doing it all myself. But even when I got started, I had my own virtual assistant that I hired to work with me while I was living in my parents' basement. So, yeah, no, that's a great point.
So, okay, let's see. I want to go to some of these comments we got here. Okay, what's your advice for presenting, exposing, explaining, sharing myself in a way that connects me to my real ideal client base?
Yeah, this is really great. I'm just going to give you a couple of quick frameworks. There's a couple different ways you can do this. But one of the first ones is promise, like getting really clear on the promised outcome. And then mistake and consequence. So I'm going to go promise and outcome, mistake and consequence. You just write these down. Story, metaphor, lesson. Story, metaphor, lesson. Okay? So, for example, your people will buy from you if they can see that you solve a problem in their life. So until we can identify the problem, they don't care. So if you're putting stuff on Instagram and it's like, look at me, happy day, this is what I have for lunch, and that's what a lot of people do, and they're like, I can't grow my following. Like, it's because no one cares. And they don't. The quicker you can realize that no one cares about you, the quicker we can get going on growing your business and attracting your audience the right way. They don't care about you because they are so concerned with the problem that they have. And so when we get to lead with the problem and the solution or the promise, we're going to start to get their attention. Like, are you struggling to blah, blah, blah? I'm going to show you 3 workouts that will help you get more blah, blah, blah. You know, like, what's the promise? And so one question I always ask is I say, okay, so what's the promise? Anytime I'm doing a post, a video, like what's the promise? How can I get their attention? And then I always say, so what? Like, why does that matter? So my sister writes 3 ways to work with me, and she's very spiritual, so she loves crystals. And it said 3 ways to work with me. And she said, number 1, the power of crystals. And I was like, so what? She's like, James, so what? Like, and she goes into this whole thing about crystals. And I was like, then why didn't you say that? Right? No one cares about the power of crystals. They care about what crystals could do for them to solve their problems and produce an outcome. Okay? So that's one way. The next one is mistake and consequence. One of the biggest reasons why people aren't getting the results that you want for them is because they're doing it wrong. They're making mistakes, either mistakes in their thinking or mistakes in their actions. For example, just ask the question, what are the mistakes or misconceptions that people have about Pilates, right? Whatever those are, you can turn that into content. Most people think that Pilates, that you need to be in the best shape of your life before you can get started with Pilates. And that's simply not true. But if you continue to think that, then you'll never get started. And then you continue to struggle with mobility and movement and this and that, right? And I want to show you that no matter where you're at in your fitness journey, you can get started. And here are 3 really cool moves you can do, no matter what your fitness level is, right? So, oh my gosh, yes, I've been making that mistake. Just like how someone here, I think it was Caitlin, was like, you're in my head. Yeah, because I know the mistakes that most business owners are making, and I repeat them back to them and show them that that's why this is a mistake. The next thing is story and metaphor. How can we use metaphors and stories to personal stories, client stories, etc., to get the message across, to get the lesson across, right? So I have a great metaphor that I just came up recently. I'll share it really quickly. I talk about how most people are not wired for business and entrepreneurship. And I tell the metaphor, and it's kind of a story of running up a downward escalator. You know, there's the down escalator, and then we try and run up it as a kid, right? And you notice that, like, you get about halfway up, and then you're moving your legs as fast as you can, but you're not going anywhere. And that's how trying to grow a business can be. And what most people do when they find themselves not moving anywhere is they run faster, they work harder, they push more. Some will make it to the top. Some will get to the top, and then they'll look around and they said, you can make it, you just got to hustle till your eyeballs bleed. Mm-hmm. And what I say is, why don't we just turn off the escalator? You still got to walk up the steps, but it's not going to be as hard. And then I go, the momentum of the downward escalator is not the economy. It's not your competitors. It's not the president. It's not all these external forces. It's simply your resistance. I want success, but I don't want failure. I want to grow my audience, but I don't want any criticism. I want to sell this product, but what if I don't get any memberships? That resistance is the downward. And if you let go of that resistance, truly, conceptually you get it and conceptually you want to, but if you truly do it, you still got to do the work. But it's the difference between going up a set of stationary stairs or going up a downward facing escalator. Your choice, and it's always your choice in every moment. So that's a great example of how I'm using a metaphor to demonstrate and communicate. And I'm sure in teaching Pilates, there's a lot of metaphors you use. Even just like the words you use are like to help visualize the movement and the move and stuff. I do a lot of yoga, so I see when it's done in yoga. So yeah, stories, metaphor. So hopefully that answers that.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah, she says yes, so helpful. So yeah, and the other thing about Pilates I always think about is Robin, who has a membership, right? And she's just a great example. I know, here's the thing I love is like, you teach us what to do, but then encourage us to like not copy it per se. Like like it's okay to come up with our own things.
Yeah. So most people are looking, it's like the whole concept of an iceberg, right? So most people are just looking at the surface of somebody else's iceberg and they're copying the surface. You always want to look and see what's going on below the surface, and there's always so much more going on. I teach from a principle-based standpoint. There's principles of the universe, there's principles of business, there's principles of marketing. When you master all these principles, the tactics, the techniques, and the tools become irrelevant. We have someone in our free group right now, which I hope everyone here will join us in that group, who's saying the reason they struggle with their business is because they can't get a hold over the tech. No, that's nonsense. I'll tell you right now, that's utter BS. They're lying to themselves because the tech is insignificant. Tech does not build your business. Definitely not this business. If it was a technology company, that's a different story. But tech does not build your business. And I know so many people that are not techies, that are computer illiterate, really, and they're building their business just fine. It has nothing to do with it. What they're doing is they're hiding behind that story of tech. And when you master the principles, like, you don't even need tech. Like, you really don't. Like, okay, can you use a Facebook group? Can you send people a PayPal link? Like, come on, people. Like, let's why are we making it so hard? And I know someone who did that. I know a member who joined our program, and she made her money back in the first week because all she did was she sent out a PayPal link to her email list and said, I'm doing this thing for 8 weeks. I'm going to do a training a week with you. It's $97. And when you give me your $97, I'm going to put you inside a private Facebook group. And she got like $2,500 or something. And it was like the first thing she'd ever done. And that's all it was a Facebook group and a PayPal link. You can't tell me that the reason why you can't grow is because you are not a techie. It's a story. It's a story that keeps you safe. Really keeps you safe. But it's actually not. It's actually hurting you more than you think. So, yeah.
So if there is one thing that Pilates instructors could go do today or tomorrow, I mean, it's Sunday if they want to chill, maybe start tomorrow, what would they do?
Let me think on this for a second.
Okay.
If there's one thing they could go do, the first thing that's coming to mind for me, and it could take many forms, is to show up for people, whatever that looks like. Whether it's a post on Instagram, a post on your Facebook page, starting your own group, and just saying, hey, this is what I do, and this is how I help people. And if you're looking for help, I'd like to help you too. In fact, if you know someone who is looking for help, let's connect them as well. And that becomes the next first step, right? Is that so many people won't own their expert status.
Yes.
Right? So who am I to be doing this? Well, here's the simple truth. If you know how to do it and you've taught others, you're an expert. There is no mayor of the internet waiting to I dub thee the official person. And that's what we're doing. We're waiting for permission, and you're going to be waiting a really long time.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest things that they feel like I would say you only have to be one chapter ahead.
Yeah, seriously. And look, if that's one of the things that most Pilates instructors are struggling with, good. Let the rest of them struggle with that now that you know the truth, and you can go forward. That's what I told myself. I said, wait a second, 99% of people aren't doing this because they're so afraid of, I haven't gotten permission, and who am I to do this? And I was like, I'm just going to go do it then. That's the opportunity here has. It's like, let everybody else stay worried, and I'll deal with them later. But like, now that you know the truth, you don't need permission. No one's going to give you permission. You'll never get it. You might as well give yourself permission and go do it today.
Right.
But don't expect that you're going to get what you want if you don't put yourself out there, if you don't give yourself permission, and if you don't claim that expert authority status. It won't happen.
And how important is video in doing that?
In what?
In doing that, in just getting out there.
It's a tool, you know, that's all it is. It's a tool. It's not that important. When it comes to video, when it comes to Pilates, like, obviously, if I wanted to learn Pilates, I'm going to learn much more I'm going to want to learn from a video versus an article.
Right.
I'm going to want to learn from a video more than a podcast on Pilates. Why? Because I want to see it. I want to look at it. I want to model it while I'm trying to do it, right? So video is a good tool for teaching Pilates. You don't need to go do a video today, you know. You can.
That's funny. I tell them I tell all my students they have to do it. Well, I've gotten a lot of them through. They have gotten through the fear and are doing them now. And that is what I say is, you know, Pilates is a physical thing. People want to see what we're doing.
Yeah.
And coming from the video guy, I'm surprised that you say that it's not that important.
It's not, because it's just a tool. You know, my sister didn't put out a video to get those 10 new members into her group.
Good point.
And there's a lot of people putting out crappy videos. So what's more effective is, and this is another conversation that we don't have time for, but it's a big one. We kind of touched upon it, but it's what is said in the video. It's the messaging. It's the content. You know, one day there won't be video. It'll be holograms or something, you know. And it's just a tool. It's just a tool. You know, so okay. So speaking of video, tomorrow is the big day, the rise of the digital CEO. Yes.
Okay. So the videos that you're able to put out are, number one, just so much fun. I mean, and so funny, but you really know, and the people that are helping you know how to invoke feeling. It's amazing, very exciting. So, if everybody, if you're not signed up for that, I'll make sure and put the link in the comments as well. Most of you, I think, should be. We have a little pop-up group we're doing, where actually the first thing we talk about is vision, value, and video. So now the video. I'm glad that you said that, because that definitely changes my perspective about video, and just how, like you said, as a tool, we think we need this, we have to do this, or it's not going to work.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I think with Pilates, there's a lot of people that go to YouTube looking for Pilates exercises. So I would be putting Pilates videos on there.
Right.
You know, and I know Robin has a ton on there, and I always told her, put more videos out there. Yeah. But you don't need that to get started. You know, I think it's a great long-term strategy, but yeah. So really excited about the series, guys. It comes out tomorrow. All the how that you guys are starting to ask, like, but what are the next steps? And the series teaches that, and it'll show you like the 5 critical elements that we look at. I've been doing this for a long time, and I've been teaching a lot of people. It's been really fun, really exciting. I take a very different approach than most. It's what we call #backwards. It's really counterintuitive, but it works. And,
it works.
And I'm excited to share it with you guys. It's called The Rise of Digital CEO, as Alison said. And you can, like, it's 8 episodes, but they're only like 8 to 10 minutes each. So they're like really fast, like really content heavy. You can binge watch it an entire afternoon. It doesn't take that much time. People have been calling it the best free business training they've ever experienced. So I'm very honored by that, very humbled by that. We put 6.5 months of time into it. So,
so much fun. It's so much fun. Don't look at them. Okay, James, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Not just for an hour, but for, you know, I mean, I don't, like I told you, this is actually the second, like, partnership I've had. And I only do things when I'm 100% passionate and know that it works.
Yeah.
And that what you share works.
Yes.
It's changing me. It's changing our business, my partner and I. And I'm just so grateful that you were not afraid to get out and share your message. And so very much.
I was for a long time.
Well, and I will see you in January. I'll be at BBD Live.
BBD Live. Yes. Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well,
okay.
thank you so much for having me. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate you guys for tuning in.
Okay. Bye, James. Have a great day.
You too. Take care.